Okay, sorry about that. Now, what were you gonna say?
I was saying, you can be such a diss. Like, literally, like, someone can meet you and say, okay, this is just some, kid who's very gender fluid and a little out there. And by the way, those are my favorite kind of people. I don't like those Christian right people who are stiff and whose personalities are just boring. I enjoy your personality, your personality. I enjoy that, and my friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like psychology, all of a sudden you put on this hat, and it's like no bullshit. Like, this is what you see, and you're very precise about it. Very much similar to me. Like, if someone met me, they're like, oh, this guy's really flaky. He's like this guy that like likes to get dick down and smoke weed. But when it comes to insurance, bitch, I know my shit. Okay?
Yes.
And I don't play with other people's money. Well, I don't play with money. Dwayne does not play with money. Okay?
No, he does
now,
not.
Having said that, I'm going to do some reading and some research, and I'm going to do two things for Dwayne. Number one, I'm going to find out what personality trait I have that when I get involved in a relationship, that Dwayne gets lost in that relationship over time. Why is that? What is it in Dwayne and his self-image that I get lost in relationships? That's going to be one thing I'm going to try to work on. Now, I've read some things about Jay's behavior and the things he did to me. And I will tell you that the things he did to me is worthy of us separating right now and worthy of us taking a step back. No doubt about it. But I can't clinically say that Jay, for sure, his behaviors certainly look like abusive, narcissistic behaviors. That I will say too. And they're bad enough that they deserve us not being together. However, I can't clinically say that Jay's a narcissist. And I will say, as I look at Dwayne, the last year and a half of my life with Jay, I have thoroughly enjoyed. And I got to pay attention to that. My life was richer with Jay than when I was living by myself. It just was. I was happier and richer. So something to blame for this, and I'm not excusing it. But as I read what narcissists do, and I look back and I look at Jay, and like, Jay has always encouraged me at work. Thinks I should go take charge of my sister and stuff at work. Doesn't want people to walk over me. Wants me to have friendships. Wants me to enjoy life. Always finding ways to like add to my existence. Like, I think Jay has spent more time thinking about Dwayne and adding to Dwayne's existence than Dwayne has Jay. By far. I may do financial things and make things comfortable, but Jay certainly makes up for that with how he caters to me, he cooks for me, and it makes my life happy. He really does a good job at that. So now we got these fuck-ups that Jay is doing. And we're asking ourselves, and we're stepping back and saying, God, is this fucker a narcissistic prick? Or is he just some drunk 20-some-year-old who really does have some problems that maybe he needs to address? But he might not be narcissistic, because all of the things that I'm reading about narcissism doesn't describe Jay on a continuous, regular basis. There's only these. I mean, when we think about the matter of time in which Jay fucked up, it was a 10-minute fuck up, another 10-minute fuck up, and then some arguments to follow when he got called. So, do they look like abusive behaviors? Yes. Could he be a narcissist? Maybe. But the more I read, the more his personality isn't matching that. And the more that his behavior over the long time isn't matching that. So I'm going to continue reading and continue doing my research. And I'm not going to draw any conclusion at this moment to say, my boyfriend's a narcissist and he treats me terribly. Because that's not true. He hasn't treated me terribly. There's been moments, but shit, there's moments in every relationship people get treated poorly, which doesn't excuse the behavior. We are broke up, and we should be broke up because the behavior was bad and made me feel bad, and I don't like it, and it'll never continue. But that's where I am today. That's where I am today. And I think my girlfriend is hyper vigilant because she loves me, and she was in abusive behavior, and she sees similarities to Jay's behaviors of what she thinks might be abuse, and what she experienced, and she is hypersensitive to that.
Or Dwayne could just be going through the process of emotions, and every day he fucking looks at another reason why to hate, well, dislike or to like Jay, and he
Dislike
hasn't
or
gone
love
to
Jay.
school like someone has for psychology to understand what a narcissist is and what narcissism looks like. Because TBH, we're all narcissistic.
We are all narcissistic in some way.
Yes.
I mean, I read about it. I read it. I'm like, shit, I'm fucking more narcissistic than Jay.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I gotta look at the totality of Jake's behavior and not just moments of it. But I say those moments, that 5% moments. I think, and I do think some Jay drinks too much. I think he needs to pay attention to that. And I think that he does make certain ways when he's in friend spaces. He needs to change that.
Yes, and that's allowed to be voiced. All of these things are allowed to be voiced because this is what happens, and it isn't just Dwayne. This happens to everyone at some point in the relationship. We like someone so much so that we will start to lower our standards and or start to lessen our boundaries because we feel as if, like we like this person, we want to give them a chance to be human, but we still have those boundaries, but we never stated those boundaries. So once they step on it and you're like, okay, you have the option to either tell them or not to tell them, but then you tell them, and then they have the option. Do I learn my lesson now? Do I learn it later? And it just keeps on repeating. There's really no fun in me going on. So at the end of the day, that is what happens in relationships. And that's where people like Dwayne and I end up going into what is like the darker path within the relationship, because we love someone so much so, or we love so hardly, where we give trust easily, all of these things, that as soon as someone, steps on a landmine, it isn't necessarily, okay, well, I'm going to blow up. It's more so, I'm just keeping tabs. I'm keeping tabs, not necessarily so that I can, be vindictive, but hey, you've done this one too many times, and honestly, it's become a problem. Now and then they're like, well, why didn't you say something before? Well, because how I regulate my boundaries is how I regulate my boundaries and standards. You do it a different way. But hey, I'm letting you know now, it's a problem. And, Chad, that's what I would do with Chad. And Chad would, freak out because I'm upset. And I'm like, okay, but see, listen, I'm not yelling at you. I'm talking to you just like this. Yo, I'm upset because you keep stepping on this boundary. No, you didn't know. It's unbeknownst to you, but now I'm letting you know. And I'm not saying you only have, but one more chance. I'm just letting you know, hey, you kind of use up all your freebies, so now I have to say something because it's really affecting me, Some people can't handle that approach because they think that it's passive-aggressive or you're not being honest with me. But if I were to ever tell you, some things are, just literally, they're just, some concepts you should already know. For instance, you shouldn't, just because it's okay with your partners who are your friends who have partners, which this isn't their relationship, 1, 2, also, maybe they've been together longer than we have, maybe their communication's a lot stronger, but common sense would tell you, regardless of if I'm your partner or not, don't leave someone period, that you came with at a bar. That doesn't make sense. That's something, a little bit more more, like severe. So, but I shouldn't have to tell you that. That's not something I should tell you. So yes, I'm going to be pissed off. Versus, like you and like you're using your razor and you leave it on the counter, but your partner constantly moves your razor. So it's like, fuck. You don't know that this is my boundary, but hey, can you stop moving my stuff because I can't find it because you move it? Yes, it's annoying, but at the same time, it's like, like it's a boundary that doesn't really need to be said because it's not something significant, versus like this is the boundary that I have. I had a partner who lied to me all the time, so please be honest with me as much as possible. That's something that I should have to voice. That's not common sense because, I mean, yeah, no, it's common sense that you shouldn't cheat, but hey, I have a boundary of honesty because of that. There's multiple boundaries of why somebody wants you to be honest, because it can stem from multiple things. So that's just kind of what happens is, yeah, and I think that that's what happens with Dwayne and and other people, but Dwayne, I've noticed that a lot with a lot of Dwayne's relationships, not just romantic, but your platonic friendships, your friendship, your platonic relationships and your friendships. Because, and I'll say, like, there were even times where I felt like I stepped on Dwayne's boundaries and Dwayne not necessarily wouldn't be able to say something, but Dwayne didn't say something. So then I stepped back and I analyzed and I was like, okay, well, maybe I asked too much of him, or maybe I stepped on a boundary and, like, I don't want to cross that boundary. So, but again, just me being like that person that is analytical, that is a psychology, I try my hardest to be self-aware, not because I don't want to make a mistake, but just because when I do make a mistake, I want to at least be able to know that, hey, and I'm not going to be 100% aware, but just so I can be like, okay, I analyzed this and I did this, I'm sorry, I apologize, or if you bring it to my attention. Things of that nature. I just try to think with common sense. But yeah, and I'm not saying.
To that point, Jay's like, when you told me it was a problem, and I wanted to go out with like Deshaun, and I went to just go cycling, and then Deshaun hit me up, and he was near me, and so I texted, hey, he wants to go to dinner, Dwayne, so Deshaun and I are going to go have dinner, and then he texted me later, oh my God, Deshaun wants to go to Boys Town. He goes, so I'm going to go to Boys Town with them. And he texted me at 12 and said, hey, I'm on my way home. He's home by 12:30. He kept me in the loop, and right now that incident with Deshaun, while I wasn't like oh my God, he just like all of a sudden deserted me in the afternoon. I'm flexible enough to know that, hey, sometimes friends hit us up and we might want to go hang with them, and it might be a last minute thing, and that's okay. Dwayne doesn't give a shit about that, because you know what? Because he did what I asked him to do. He kept me in the loop. He communicated. He said, see, Dwayne, I just didn't leave. I communicated what I was doing. Okay? And he could even ask me if it was okay. Dwayne, it's okay that I go. I don't know if I need to have him go that far, but I do need him to communicate. And he said, if you tell me where the boundaries are, I'll know where they are. But until these occurrences occur, how do I know where I stand? And I'm thinking, well, you just should know this. But apparently he doesn't. You know? And a lot of things like I talked to him about, I'm like, Jay, you operate it like you're single. You operate, we're supposed to be one, and you don't operate that way. And he had a talk with his parents, and he said, Dwayne, my mom and dad said that I should listen to you, that how I want a relationship to look like, that we're just one, and then we move that way. And then if you want to be in a relationship with this man, you have to listen to what he's looking for and see if that works for you, Jay. Because you can't operate as a single man. You can't operate like you used to operate. You have to operate differently. And just because we don't, well, our relationship, your father's and mine, if we don't operate like a one in the way that Dwayne wants to operate that way, doesn't mean, Jay, that you shouldn't look to operate the way Dwayne wants to operate. Because you're in a relationship with Dwayne too.
Yes.
And so I think that this is helpful, that this breakup is helpful because Jay is seeking advice from his parents and stepping back and saying, Mom, I am so lucky now.
No, you're very hypersexual. I think maybe he is, but I think Jay is more of a like. He doesn't. I think. I want to say, I feel like he, well, also at the same time, again, I'm not there when you two have sex and how often you have sex, I don't know.